Nell Clay back with you again to talk about our exhibit about African American First from Illinois. This exhibit is much more than information about African Americans that were the first to accomplish in their respective areas. It is about debunking the racist theory that African Americans were not intelligent. First individual in this exhibit I'm going to discuss is Augusta Tolan. Augustus Tolan actually was a slave. His mother escaped from slavery with he and his 4 siblings when the Civil War began. He and his siblings were ridiculed when they were put in school because they could not read or they could not write. But eventually they overcame that challenge. And Augustus excelled in school. And along the way he decided he wanted to be a priest. And when he was ready to apply to seminary school, he applied to every seminary school in the U.S. and no American seminary school would accept him because of the color of his skin. Eventually he was accepted in a school in Rome, Italy. After he finished his education, he returned to Quincy as a priest. He worked in Quincy as well as in Chicago, Illinois. On June 12, 2019, Pope Francis, the head of the Catholic Church and sovereign of the Vatican City-State, declared that Father Augustus Tolan of Quincy, Illinois, the first publicly recognized American Catholic priest of African descent and a former slave venerable. Such an achievement for a slave that went from slavery to priesthood and possibly a saint. Our next feature is Dr. Alonzo Kennebrew. And you heard a little bit about him for the Schultz family in our family exhibit. Dr. Kennebrew went to school and college at McMurray Institute. He worked at hospitals in Springfield. He actually worked at St. John's performing surgery. His specialty was ear, nose, and throat. At some point, the powers that be decided to create a new qualifications to work at St. John's Hospital. You had to become a member of the Sangamon County Medical Society. Dr. Kennebrew applied 3 times. He was never admitted to the society, never given a reason why he was not admitted. So he said, I'm going back to Jacksonville, and he started his own school. Okay, the next board features Curtis Farrell Clay. Curtis was born and raised in Springfield, went to Springfield High and graduated from Springfield High School. After graduating from Springfield High, he went to Howard University and earned his bachelor's degree in architecture. He returned to Illinois and went to Champaign, the University of Illinois in Champaign-Urbana, to get his master's degree in architecture. He worked various jobs in Chicago. He eventually moved back to DC, and he was an adjunct professor at Howard University. He was blessed to obtain a job with the government of Washington, D.C., where he was in charge of a design team. One of the major projects that Curtis worked on as head of the design team was the remodeling and redesign of the Eastern Market, which was destroyed by fire. The other thing that he did, he was on the design team that helped to redesign and construct Ballou High School in Washington, D.C. In October 2019, Curtis was selected to become the Director of Architecture for the State Department of Building Overseas Operation, becoming the first African American to hold that position. In Curtis Clay's current position, he is responsible for a $20 billion budget, which covers the design and maintenance of consulates and embassies throughout the world. And of course, his lovely family. Next, we have Dr. Carla Diane Hayden. Dr. Hayden was appointed as the Librarian of Congress, the 14th Librarian of Congress by President Obama. She is the first African American and the first female to hold that position. Anthony Tony Goldsby, he is also from Springfield, Illinois, graduated from Springfield High, and Tony completed a Bachelor of Architecture at the University of Notre Dame in US, and then went on to complete his Master's of Architecture at Yale University as he was working as a technical assistant in planning and development. After a period of travel throughout the Middle East, Anthony landed in New England. He did projects in Westchester as well as Wales. He currently resides in England. Moving on, we have two individuals on this board. Virgil Doherty. Virgil Doherty and his family ran OK Taxi Cab Company. This was the first cab company in Springfield, Illinois. After World War II, he and his brothers returned to Springfield and they started their cab company where they had a fleet of 30 cabs. We've been told that this was the cleanest, the nicest, and the best looking cabs in Springfield at that time with the nicest drivers. Sharing the board with Virgil Doherty is Felicia Hurst Burton. Felicia is a trailblazer of first. She is from Springfield. She's the first in her family to receive her bachelor's degree. She took a position in Minneapolis, Minnesota with the 3M company as an architect. She was the first to hold the position as a design consultant for that company. When she returned to Springfield, she took a position with the Capital Development Board as a sole accessibility subject expert at CDB and the chief interpreter of the Illinois Accessibility Code. Felicia is the first African American and the first woman to hold that position. She currently works in that position. Dr. Percy was an African American research chemist and a pioneer in the chemical synthesis of medical drugs with plants. He was the first to synthesize the natural product and a pioneer in the industrial large-scale chemical synthesis of the human hormones, progesterone and testosterone from plant steroids. His work laid the foundation for the drug which created birth controls. So we knew that with this exhibit on African American First from Illinois, we could not feature everyone, but we did want to feature some people we think you may have heard of to highlight their accomplishments. First is Sarah Good, the first African American woman to receive a patent in the U.S., and she received it for her cabinet bed. Frank Mitchell, at the age of 14, Frank became the first page for the Illinois House of Representatives. Jesse White, I'm sure you guys know if you're from Illinois, he's the first African American Secretary of State and the longest reigning Secretary of State for the state of Illinois. Oscar Stanton Dupree. Oscar was actually the first African American to be elected to Congress in the 20th century. Most recently, in 2019, Lauren Underwood, she became the first African American to win the representative congressional seat for the 14th district in Illinois. I'm sure you heard of Jackie Joyner Kersee. She was the first African American to earn a gold medal in the long jump. Andre Iguodala, we just had to mention him because he's from Springfield, our famous basketball player, pro player, MVP, as well as gold medal winner. Our current Lieutenant Governor, Juliana Stratton, she's the first African American to serve as Lieutenant Governor in Illinois, and she began that position in 2019. And last, but certainly not least, LaShonda Finch. She's the first African American to serve as Director of Oak Ridge Cemetery here in Springfield, Illinois. We think this exhibit is very important. It highlights the accomplishments of individuals that are from this area. So as young people come to visit the exhibit, we just want to show them that you can accomplish. The people that walk the same halls and the same schools that you did worked hard and achieved great things, and we encourage you to work hard and do the same thing.